Welcome back. Let's get right into it. Mr. Dixon Osagie joins us. He's the MD, Debris Protection Services Limited. He's also a security consultant. Mr. Osagie, good morning and welcome to the Morning Brief.
Good morning, Bukola. Thank you for having me.
Now, let's begin with the matter of state police. The bill has been transmitted to the Senate for speedy consideration. And we did hear the Senate President say yesterday that it will be dealt with on two levels. It will be embedded as an act of parliament. And besides that, it will also, the Constitution will also be amended to accommodate it. So let's begin to reflect on, and I want you to help us in this regard, on what this would mean in terms of structure when the framework is concluded, documented and gazetted. Structure being at the state level, what would state police then look like? Because we already have, for most states, security initiatives, local security network in most states that have been adopted by state governors. What would this then look like? Would it be a fresh recruitment exercise, or would this be an absorption of local security networks that we already have? What are your reflections on this?
Well, I think it's very technical from your analysis, and I think that everything is going to go well from the beginning, and as well, if the National Assembly, consents to it, it's going to be, one step at a time. We all have our own concern, the negative perspective of the state policing and the positive perspective. But let me focus on the positive perspective, because a lot of us believe that if this state police comes to play, it's going to bridge the gap between the people and the policing system. Because what policing is all about is, bringing the people close to the policing system, so that the police can get intelligence. They can also, have confidence on the policing system. So for now, those, various organizations that have been established by state governors in the area of, community policing level, I think they're going to, integrate it to the state policing system only if they carry them through effective training, so that they don't go with that local mentality, because I've seen a lot of them acting without being trained, taking laws into their hands as well, because we've all condemned the federal policing system for taking laws into their hands. We've also seen Amoteco and other, network within the northern region taking laws into their hands. So this time around, if we're going to look at the structure, first of all, the establishment of the state police commission will need to, bet a very good board system that will bring a lot of experienced officers on board that will manage the command structure of a state policing system. Because we speak, Bukola, the federal policing system has some deficiency in the area of morale, in the area of, motivation, and also in the area of deployment, housing, and as well, training. So we cannot bet a new policing system when the federal policing system has some deficiencies. So the state police system, the state governors must, derive, lesson learned from the federal policing system and ensure such, negative lessons, negative issues are not brought into the state policing system. So if we are going to, induct or, bring on board all the existing localized security network, what is very important now, Bukola, for the state governors to start doing is to roll out a training curriculum that will cover crime prevention, crime response, anger management, crowd management, and as well other, essential trainings that these guys will, have to ensure that they don't mess up the state policing system, so that we don't go back trying to, take them out from our space. So I think if we look at the command structure from the state police commission, they also have the board system. From the board system, we have the commanders, we have all other, structures in place to ensure that abuse will not be possible from political leaders and as well from state governors.
We'll come to the matter of abuse, but, what it would look like in terms of structure is something that is very important. And I say this because the Inspector General of Police had to assure the force, members of the force, that their jobs were secure and the matter of state police would not negatively impact on them. So I'm wondering if state police commands across the 36 states of the Federation will be retained, or there'll be a collapse in, I'm not quite sure, and what nomenclature would look like. Would we still have Ebubeago, Amotekun, depending on which part of the country there is? If you have thoughts on that, it will be interesting to know what you think. But also, what would then be categorized as federal crime and what would be categorized as state crime to now be handled by state police?
Well, fantastic question. Crime is crime. There's no crime that is federal, there's no crime that is state. If you kill somebody, for example, today, you will say it's a state crime or it's a federal crime. The whole essence is that every state should be able to manage their, what they call security design. Because if we don't have that measures in place, I tell you, a lot of things is going to go wrong. So from the state perspective, whatever is above the state, they can refer to the federal government. If, for example, there's a crime in progress, and this state policing system, they have the helicopters, for example, they have the helicopters to chase these criminals, they have the machineries, they have the equipment, they can go after these guys and ensure that they bring them to book. But when it comes to the federal policing system, whatever is beyond the state, they can transfer to the federal system, except the law permits that, okay, anything that has to do with assassination, killing, transfer to the federal government. That is going to be a breach between the state policing system and the federal policing system. But, like you already said, the Constitution and also the National Assembly must draw a clear line between the duties of the state policing system and as well the federal policing system. So we don't have state police officers doing the duties of federal policing system. But in a nutshell, what I strongly believe is that the state policing system will be able to curtail crime, because crime is crime. Even though we have classes of crime, but I strongly believe that if crime is crime, the state policing system and also the state government can be able to mitigate such a situation. But if it's overpowers them, then I tell you it's going to be an issue, and as well they can as well report back to the federal. So for me, the line must be drawn. What is expected from the federal? What is expected from the state? So if you see that policies, we'll be able to analyze the policies. But as we speak now, we've not seen the policies, you know, the duties, responsibilities of the state policing system, where they draw the line between them and the federal policing system. Then you're talking about, trying to, all state commissioners should be, normalized to state policing system. I don't think that is going to work, because if we talk about state policing system, we should be able to have people that are from within the state. Are you with me? Because most times we fail to understand that crime prevention is very essential and very systematic, whereby the people need to trust the police. The people need to deliver information or pass information or intelligence to the police. But as we speak, a lot of people are scared of passing information to the police. Like the killing in Delta State sometime last 2 months, where the young man was assassinated in the broad daylight. Intelligence got to the police by an informant that, hey, there's somebody expecting a parcel, and they didn't manage that information well, and that guy was eliminated. In such situation, nobody want to pass information to the police. So the state policing system must design their intelligence network and as well design their operational network to ensure that they don't, clash within the federal policing system. But let's see what the National Assembly or the document is going to roll out on their duties and responsibility, so that we don't have a conflict of interest where you now see state policing system engaging in a battle or in a fight with federal policing system, or where you now see, battle of superiority. So we're going to draw the line. They have to draw the line to ensure that battle of superiority does not emerge.
I think the broad idea, broadly speaking, of state police is a brilliant one. Our concern is always how it will be operationalized, given the kind of politics we play in Nigeria, and given what we're dealing with at the moment. So I'm trying to always highlight the cons, because we already know what the pros are. Because if we don't manage the cons properly, to make a mess of the pro. And one of the biggest cons here is the susceptibility to abuse of power, and that has to do with the recruitment process and all of that. So in your expert point of view, how do you think, because the governors are going to be appointing CPs, just like the president appoints IGPs and all of that, the governors are going to be appointing CPs. I've not seen the entire framework, so when we see it, we'll be able to speak authoritatively. What the National Assembly will do is to give a major constitutional framework as a ground norm, and then each state will be able to leverage on that to design what suits every state, because what is happening in Borno is different from what is happening in Cross River and different from what is happening in Benue. So everybody has to design by aligning with the ground norm. So how do we insulate political interference from, at least fair enough, from our policing system when we get to this stage of state police? But if we sit here and tell ourselves that politicians will not use state police, governors will not use state police against their political enemies, I think we'll be very naive. So we need to prepare for that.
Oh, fantastic, Geoffrey. We need to prepare for that, like Raleigh talked about, because we speak, politicians are even abusing our federal policing system. You see police officers carrying portfolios, carrying bags of politicians, and moving around our space. And as well, sometimes I tend to wonder, are these guys really trained as police officers? Because it's abusive when you see police officers who are trained to protect the citizens, to protect the state, or concentrating their efforts on political allies. Because what we are seeing presently, and majority of IGs, to be fair with them, they've tried to see how they can ban it. Even the president has already banned police escort and other policing duty that interferes with the normal policing policing design. So for me, Geoffrey, what we'll be looking at is that from the state perspective, we should have a system whereby, or a punishment system, because everything boils down to punishment. If you don't put punishment system in place, crime flourish. So for us to excel in the state policing system, the National Assembly shouldn't be in a hurry, because what I'm saying is that as if they are in a hurry, they shouldn't be in a hurry. They should redesign the document. They should see the document. They should look at the abusive line where they can put in structures in place whereby it will be impossible for state governors to abuse these people. Like you already said, the IDP has been appointed by states by president of our country. We have seen how some previous IGP, apply excessive use of force because they are being loyal to the president. What we should be looking at is loyalty to the people, because policing is not about loyalty to the person or to the governor or to the president. It's all about being loyal to the people. Because if you want to have selective loyalty, I tell you, you're not going to succeed, and the people are going to look at you. And that is why the Nigerian police have been working so hard to rebrand their image, stating that police is your friend. I don't need to tell you that Geoffrey is my friend or Dixon is Joshua's friend. Friendship, comes natural, and you can feel it. But when the people feel it, have the feelings that the police are not to be trusted, or they can't trust the police, we begin to have this kind of issues. So from a abusive perspective, or let's leave abusive perspective, because it's going to be it's going to take place. That's short banker, because election is coming, and a lot of state governors want to say, hey, I'm going to appoint you, and you're going to do what I say I want you to do. Please, you have to be loyal to me. We should have a system whereby even the state governors should not even have hands in appointing the commissioner of police. Let the state police commission, come into a selective process, an open, selective process. Get the best hands, interview them, screen them, set an exam for them, and they go through a board exam and as well a board screening. Then from there they approve somebody and notify the governor and say, this is the person we have selected and this is what the board have selected. They pass it through the state assembly, and then the person is being approved to be a state commissioner of police. If that is going to work, Geoffrey, is going to mitigate abuse. But once you give the governors, maybe perhaps the state constitution permits them to do so, or the constitution that is going to be amended, and also the policies about the state policing is going to give governors the power to elect state governors, state policing of state police commissioners. Then what they should be looking at is that they should draw a line, abusive line, and ensure that any governor or any political elect who abuse this system must be caught to book. But for me, Geoffrey, I think we don't even need to start speaking to our politicians or whatever the case may be. Every police officer should know and should be well trained and to understand that, hey, their allegiance is to the people. It's not to a politician. I've seen in America where some people that Donald Trump appointed, get to resign and say, hey, I cannot toe the line you're going. So when we start having police officers that have the meritocracy, pragmatism, and also honest, if they have this MPH methodology or system, I tell you they'll be able to, they will, let me say, be loyal to the people, Geoffrey, and they will not abuse themselves. So everything boils down on honesty and meritocracy. We'll have that on board. I think state policing will excel.
So
every person that comes to board must respect the people.
Yeah, Mr. Saje, with what you know, and of course, the bill is before the National Assembly. Corrections, amendments, all of those things, modifications, adjustment, tenses, all of that will happen. Maybe perhaps a little bit more faster than it should be, but we must be cautious to put all the guardrails. where I'm going to my question is, when do you think, when the laws are passed, how soon do you think we can have state police operational in Nigeria? 2026, 2027, or later?
Well, it depends on what the law says, like you rightly said, because they will give a timeline. But election is coming. 2027 election is coming. I think I won't want the government to be in a hurry to establish it now before the election. It should be post-election. Why I'm saying so is that so that these guys don't face a very tough time from our politicians. So for me, I think we should try to hold on until after the 2027 election. And Geoffrey, another part to be worried about is the northern area, where you have a lot of terrorist situation where we're being, engulfed by terrorism and as well banditry and insurgency. And from my own perspective, I'm beginning to worry that if we start bringing in guys on board, or repentant terrorists or repentant militants, and try to see how we can bring them into the state police system, there's going to be a very big issue in the area of intelligence, because a terrorist today is a terrorist forever. It's an ideological driven mentality. So for me, I think the state governors should be very careful in the area of employment and the area of recruitment and the area of training, so that you don't bring, past criminals on board. Because if you are a criminal, you are a criminal. If you are an ex-convict, you don't have any business coming to serve the state, except you are going to play in the area of informant. So I think the state policing system, like you already talk about the pros and the cons, I think it's going to work. But for me, I would suggest that this state policing system should kick off after the 2027 election, so that these guys can grow, keep growing and keep growing, learn to fail, learn and fail, and progress towards 2031 election. Let's see what's going to happen. But if the federal government says no, they have to start immediately, then I tell you, 2027 is going to be very tough, and it's going to be an opportunity for us to test the integrity and capability of the state policing system.
Now, I want you to share your wealth of experience on this particular related matter, and that would be, what would be the powers, the additional powers that the governors will be having under this new framework? And I ask because it is often asked that is there any command currently that a state governor would issue to a state police commissioner that he cannot carry out? So from your wealth of experience and interactions with state institutions, what are the current limitations, and is there any particular command that a state governor would issue that a state police commissioner would not carry out?
Well, I don't think so. Except maybe the governor is asking the state commissioner to go and execute or eliminate some criminals. Most of us think that these state police commissioners, they don't listen to the governors. They do, but sometimes if they get any information, they transmit a signal to Abuja to notify the IG of their action or action in progress or any actionable intelligence. I was privileged to communicate to a commander in Lagos sometime last week, where some guys were eliminated themselves somewhere in the west, and the commander responded within 24 hours, to take out and arrest most of these criminal elements. Not to talk about a governor, because we all have a duty to play when there's a crime in progress and you believe that some society or some people or an environment are being threatened. So for me, I think the commissioners have been taking orders from the governors, and the only area there is that the response time, because when it comes to security, time is very important. Speed is very important. So most of the delay factors is maybe perhaps when they want to, transmit signal. And whatever the case may be, any governor that receives any, order from any commissioner that receives any order from state governors, they usually communicate. That's why they have the signal department, whereby they transmit the information to Abuja, notify Abuja about the incident, and as well they have their daily security briefings that they brief the IGP. So for me, I think the only area is sometimes maybe when the IGP will ask them to wait in some certain areas or maybe some sensitive operations. But I don't think, like Lagos State, the Lagos State Commissioner of Police, has been responding swiftly to crime situation. We've seen him moving around Lagos State, carrying out some surveillance activities personally to ensure that his police officers are all, up to the task, and as well ensuring that people don't go beyond board. So if we have the state policing system, I also strongly believe that if the state governors are going to be passing fishing orders to the state police commissioner. The state police commissioner must also learn to let the governor know orders that are acceptable and orders that might not be acceptable. This is not going to be an arena or an avenue where you say obey the last order. No, it's not going to be obey the last order. It's going to be obey, an order that is good for the people, an order that is against criminal behavior, and also an order that will put the society in a state of peace. So, Bukola, we are in a dicey situation. Nigeria is being messed up from the east, west, south, and north. We are suffering from multi-dimensional security threat. And the approach now for state policing system, it's a welcome development. Let's try it and see. You know, you have to get married to a wife to know if it's a bad wife or a stubborn wife. So we are getting married to state policing system, and let's bring the wife on board and see if it's going to be a good house, a good wife. Let me not use the word housewife.
Well, that's as vivid can be and should help us make up our minds. There's so many other elements to it. The state governors are seeking guaranteed constitutional provision for funding of the state policing structure, you know, amid the consideration of the bill. But there's security vote and there's increased allocation. But I'd leave you to reflect on that, Mr. Dixon Osaje. We must anchor this conversation at this point. Mr. Dixon Osaje is the MD, Debris Security Network, and is also a security consultant who has brought his experience to bear on this conversation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bukola. We expect our new wife soon.
We'll take a moment now, and when we return, we'll go to our next leg of the conversation, which affects your pocket. Stay with us. We'll be right back.